All right, guys, we're ready for lesson 2.7 on our focus lesson here. And our I can statements dealing with exploring some relationships and fraction division. We're going to be doing some estimating and trying to write and match some number models that go along with the problems. What are we dividing by what? Figuring out that dividend and divisor. And again, that can be some tough work here. So for these problems, we're going to take a look at them and try to figure out which one of these would be correct and kind of estimate an answer here. So in this first case, it takes Melissa a half an hour to walk to the store. She walks one block in 5 minutes, and then they tell us that's 1/12 of an hour, 5 minutes, because I know there's 60 minutes. So 5 out of 60, 5/60 is 1/12. So we've got 1/12 of an hour. And the question asks me, how many blocks does she walk to the store? So how many blocks does it take to walk to the store? How can I get this problem written, my number sentence, to get that answered correctly? Okay, so in this case, I'm thinking it takes a half an hour, and every block is 1/12 of an hour. Right, so I'm dividing into groups of 1/12 because every 1/12 is a block. So I'm starting with a half an hour, and I'm dividing into groups of 1/12. If I were going to say it backwards, how many 1/12 does it make to get to a half? And in this case, if we did common denominators, I'm kind of estimating here, but we know this is 6/12. How many 1/12 does it take to get to 6/12? Or excuse me, to 1/2, which is 6/12. Yes, how many 1/2s to get to 6/12? It would take 6. And actually, that's my answer here. I'm just trying to make sense of this problem. I know every 1/12 or every 5 minutes they go a block. So how many times do I have to do that to get to half an hour? Okay, or if you thought about it in minutes, if you know a half an hour is 30 minutes, how many 5 minutes? It could just be simply 30 divided by 5. Half an hour, 30 minutes divided into groups of 5. We just did it with fractions, and I know this answer is 6 as well. So I can come up with the exact answer there, and that makes sense. If I do 1/12 divided by 1/2, you're not going to get the answer of 6. You're going to get something less than 1, which would not make sense. Okay. Question B. CJ decorated a costume with fabric-covered buttons. He used 4.5 inches of fabric for 6 buttons. He used the same amount of fabric for each button. How many inches of fabric did he use for one button? Okay, so I'm trying to figure out how many inches of fabric did he use for one button. All right, so again, what's he starting out with? What groups is he dividing into? Well, in this case, he only has 4.5 inches, and he wants to divide that into a group of 6. That'll break it down to one button for us here. So my number sentence, if I have 4.5 inches of fabric divided into a group of 6, because I'm making 6 buttons. So how much would each button fabric take? And this will break that down for us. I wouldn't want, we don't have 6 inches divided by 4.5 buttons. We've got 4.5 inches divided into 6 buttons to tell us what one button would need. So to solve this, again, doing some estimating before we even think about it here, we want to get an answer that makes sense. If I only have 4.5 inches and I'm dividing that by 6, I know the answer is going to be less than 1. I mean, if we say it backwards like we do with division, how many 6s can I make out of 4.5? I can't get a group of 6. I can't even get one. So I know it's going to be less than 1. Okay, so if I did the work, let's think back to what we did with common denominators. I could change this thing to 9/2, and I can divide that by 6. And if I divide that by 6, let's go common denominator over 1. So I got to take it times 2 and times 2. And I'm going to get 12 over 2. So 9/2 divided by 12/2. Again, that's still 6. Now if I do that, remember the numbers don't always get along, but I know the denominator is going to be a 1, 2 divided by 2. So my answer is simply 9 divided by 12, which is 9/12. Okay, or if you did it on a calculator, you'd get 0.75, 0.75. Again, so that would be something that you could answer. 9/12 could be 3/4. So there's different ways you can answer this, but how many inches of fabric did she use for one button? I'm just going to use 3/4. She used 3/4 inches. She didn't use 1 inch, which when we estimated, we said the answer would be would be less than 1. So that makes sense. So you're going to be practicing on your slides here today, just trying to get these and the dividend and the divisor in the right order, try and get an answer that makes sense, do a little bit of estimating, and just more deeply understanding division.